Your eyes and ears do not deceive you. This is The Last Video Store, and my name is Alexi Toliopoulos. I'm the host of this program, where I talk to interesting and cool people about their favorite films in the style of an old school video store rental combo. And joining me today is someone very cool, the filmmaker Gracie Otto. Now, it was a pleasure to have Gracie Otto in the studio with us today, Em, wasn't it?
Oh, she was amazing. Her stories were top tier.
Gracie has just left The Last Video Store. We're recording this right after.
The magic's still in the air.
We've still got the aura, we've still got the magic. Now, honestly, great stories, right?
Yeah, her stories were amazing. She's met everyone. She has a story about everyone. She has an amazing, opinion, not in a weird way, but she knows film. She knows film so well.
Truly, and we've been wanting to do this for quite some time because the Cates, who are the writers and creators of Deadloch, I'm good friends with them. They have been trying to get Gracie on to this show since the inception of this podcast, before it even came out. So this has been a long time in the making. True cinephile Gracie Otto, and like all these stories I'm talking about, she's been involved with her family in the arts in Australia forever. And her new film, Otto by Otto, this beautiful documentary she's made about her father, the iconic actor Barry Otto. What people know him for, Bliss is probably his most well-known performance. Beautiful Australian surrealist film. But then also Baz Luhrmann's Strictly Ballroom. He plays a father in that. Incredible performance. But he's just synonymous with Australian theatre and film. And this film, Otto by Otto, is a very intimate personal documentary about her father, their relationship, but also him getting on in years and now losing some of himself or losing his memory to dementia, Alzheimer's. Really, really powerful film. I was so moved by this. You can watch it on Stan now, but it just won the ACTA Award for Best Documentary Film at Australian Screen Awards. Very worthy winner, in my opinion. I think it's a very rare film. So really excited to have Gracie in here to talk about Otto by Otto and then a couple of her favorite films as well. And then I'll give her a bespoke customized recommendation based on her taste too. And if you want that, dear listener, dear viewer, if you want that same treatment, leave us what your new release favorite film is, 2 all-time favorites as your weekly titles, and I'll give you my staff pick video store recommendation, dude. So what have we got? We got a new review in here, don't we, Em?
Yeah, we do. Well, not exactly new, but that doesn't matter.
We're getting back to all of them. Thankfully, we get a lot of reviews, so it's very generous, but truly, we're going through them all.
But we try to get to every single one.
We will. By the end of my life, I'll do all of them.
Yes, exactly. So this one is from Lockie Trev.
Hello, Lockie. Hello, Trev. I'm assuming it's 2 people.
Maybe. Great episode. So awesome to hear these fellas talk about movies. I think they're talking about the Weekly Planet guys.
Oh, awesome. Great. Thank you.
In your format. I'm not one of the fellas.
Yeah, no. Today you are. You're one of the fellas.
Oh, cool. New listener via your appearance on their pod.
Great.
There you go. Love your passion and enthusiasm.
Weekly Planet confirmed. I was on their pod.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to the bottom of it. For me, new release, Kubi, subtitles recently released. Absolutely adore all of Kitano's work, and this is such a jaunt through his Yakuza-type direction, but for samurai.
Oh, cool. Okay, Takeshi Kitano, the guy's made 100 movies, literally. I've not seen all of them. This one's not even on my radar.
Yeah, very cool.
I've got a recommendation from you, Trev.
Thanks, Lockie.
Awesome. Lockie Trav?
Call him whatever.
Yeah.
Weekly is The Raid, simply one of the greatest action movies of all time. I adore the Dread John Wick vibes.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I saw that in the cinema when it came out.
Did you?
Yeah, I went with a fellow student from Afters.
Wow,
and
the
he
film
was like,
school.
and I was like, I walked out of it being like, I love that movie, and he was like white as a sheet. He was like, what the fuck?
Oh my god, this guy's a gronkers.
And there's Lockie's other weekly is Perfect Days. Changed my view on life. Beautiful.
Yeah, love it. Beautiful. 3 great picks. I'm going to watch the Takeshi Kitano one, but I want to go from The Raid, I guess the Kitano one in a way too, and give you a hard action movie from the East. And I've got Tiger Cage 1988 by Yoon Woo Ping. I watched this film not too long ago. I think there's even a trilogy of Tiger Cage films. But I found myself spellbound by the action. And me and my friend are watching with Henry Stone, beloved director, who'll come on this show hopefully one day. We literally kept on rewinding to go, what did we just see? What was the action stunt that we just saw? There's one towards the start of this movie that I saw on Twitter that I was like, I need to see this movie. And I bought this trilogy of Blu-rays because like, I need to see this. And it lived up to it. Great action film. So that is Tiger Cage. Great picks as well.
Well, you know
Lucky.
what? If I would love to hear from some listeners who we've given a recommendation to
Yeah.
and what they think of it. So that would be amazing to hear if we nailed any of the reviews. We don't want to hear if they didn't like it.
No. If we didn't like it. No, I've had some good ones like that. I've seen on the YouTube comments.
Yes,
from time
please
to time.
come. Yeah.
They comment back on. Can't remember who it was, but there was one who go, you nailed it, Lex. Thank you, mate. So say
Love
that every
that.
time. I do not want to be criticized, but
No,
send in
no,
your
I can do it.
reviews. We are getting through them all, and
Yeah.
we've gotten a lot, so really appreciate them.
Love it.
But obviously, it helps the show, and it helps you, and it also sharpens my skill set, so I can get better at recommending. We're gonna crack a recommendation on this upcoming episode now with Gracie Otto. So let us get the frick into it. Gracie Otto, thank you so much for joining us here in the Last Video Store.
No worries. It's just down the road.
Yeah, it's pretty close for you.
Yeah, I mean, I drove here because I like to listen. I'm very obsessed with music, so I like to kind of pump myself up and listen to some tracks on the way. And
Well,
also, I was
I'm
carrying
glad.
this like heavy book, so
Yeah, you brought in your own props as well.
Yeah.
You brought in to exude your love of film. You've got the Wong Kar-wai
yeah,
book.
yeah.
So I assume we're going to talk a bit about Wong Kar-wai at some point today. But
Yeah.
I want to kick things off. You know, you're a great film lover.
Yes.
You're a filmmaker. What was your origin point? Was it inside the video stores where you discovered some of your favorites?
I mean, definitely. We around the corner from my parents' house where I grew up, we had a video shop called, I think it was Video Easy Stanmore.
I'm glad you grew up inside your parents' house.
Yeah. And it was this great, there was just a great guy who worked there who, I actually don't know his name, but I think it was like Tuesdays, it was like you got 7 for $7, like it was $1 a DVD or something. And he had this section at the back that was like every director listed. So it'd be like, you know, Lars von Trier or even like Gillian Armstrong or whatever. And it would just kind of, and so he would kind of, you know, I would just spend hours like, you know, because I don't ever, like I go to bookshops, but I don't know how to read. So I just kind of I like looking at covers and having the idea of, you know, so I'd spend hours there just looking at things and he'd kind of come over and suggest something because I'd always quite get obsessed with like a genre or like a region or a particular director and just go deep. Usually, you know, once I traveled and stuff and went somewhere, I'd become obsessed with like that country's work. And yeah, it was sad that I don't even know when video stores disappeared. Like I just feel like one day that we had them and then
That slow phase out, right?
I remember being at Cannes Film Festival with like a movie that I'd acted in and it was at like the market and there was this little stall called Netflix, like a little booth, you know?
God,
Like isn't
yeah.
that crazy? And you just think,
Wow.
and people were like, VOD, should we sell it to VOD? And you just go, well, what's that? Like, you know.
And now it's all completely
But
changed.
now I've got all this collection of DVDs. I was never a Blu-ray person. Yeah.
Yet to upgrade.
Yeah.
But one day you will.
Yeah.
I see it in your future. I love that you mentioned Jill Armstrong, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time as well. And especially you have like a close relationship with her. Like some of her films, you know, talking about growing up in the West, one of my favorite films of hers, Last Days of Shay Nu.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that film when I watch it, you go, that's what it looked like to grow up in Sydney at that time.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that, like, what kind of relationship do you have to her films as well?
I guess like Jill, when we grow up, to be honest, like Jill was always away directing movies, you know, so as a child, like I love Jill. Like she's one
Yeah.
of like my best, dearest family friends. But it's interesting because I guess in a way really just wanted to be her, you know. But like, because I was like, oh, what do you mean? There's like a nanny coming to look after us while you guys all go out and like go to lunch or whatever. And so, but she came and watched my first short film I made in high school, which I remember I was terrified. It was in my brother's bedroom, like where we had the kind of shared TV.
Yeah.
And she, you know, watched it and like, yeah, I'm always like quite, not petrified sending her stuff, but like, yeah, sometimes I'll think she's going to hate this and then she'll write something really nice, or sometimes I think she'll like something and she'll, you know, be more critical. And yeah, I mean, yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she's like truly one of my all-time heroes. And I will get into your films in a sec, but maybe this allow me to do a little bit of a segue. Whereas I think of Jill being one of my favorite filmmakers. One of the best things that she does, and one of the reasons I love her is she has this great kind of this straddles a line of making narrative feature films and documentary feature films. And I think all my favorite filmmakers do that. I think you're someone who is in that same pathway as well of making narrative fiction and making documentaries as well. And I would love to kind of know how one feeds into the other for you.
I think for me, like, I never went to university. I come to documentary from a point, I mean, a bit different with the film on Dad, but come from a point of like not knowing anything about a subject. And it's like having a second chance of like school and going, let's just go study this for a year. But it has to come from a point of being quite obsessed and interesting, and I think quite naive to a subject as well. So we're not going in there like as a fan being, oh, your music album was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like a point of discovery for me. And I think documentaries, like, I always say it's like making a film is like climbing a mountain. You got to get all the finance, the actors attached. Like, will it happen? It takes like, 10 years, 20 years sometimes films take. Whereas documentary, I just say it's like jumping out of a plane. If you've got the access and you've got a camera, you can start, and then you can figure out, you figure out later how to finish it and how to finance it and everything like that. So I think, when I met Michael White years ago and did my first documentary, it was like I had access to this guy who was willing to kind of tell his story and introduce me to all the people to get the interviews. So I just kind of ran with it and then figured out, now we're going to have to raise some money to finish it.
And now when you go back to narrative, how has like your approach to documentary kind of informed that storytelling?
It's so different. Like for me, I've been doing a lot of TV, which is so instinctual. I always say there's like 56 ways to skin the cat. And like on day 5 of a director's edit, you go, cat 27 is the cat we're going with. And there's something great because it's like you can just go, like I've gone from show to show for 5 years now and I'm pretty burnt out. But I like that kind of endurance. Whereas, when I made my film Seriously Red, it's like I'm maybe not the kind of director, maybe I will be on the next film that sits for hours or weeks going like, oh, when he walks in the door, should he pick up the cup or maybe we hold there, and spend hours labouring on something or days or weeks or whatever as a creative. I kind of just like, I just feel like there's not much time on earth and I just want to just get my hands in and try everything. So I kind of like, I really like doing fashion films and ads and, documentary and TV and films. And now I'm just in that crossroads of kind of going, well, I've worked for 5 years straight and what do I want to do next? And I think, that's why going back and seeing all these old films, it's like after being on TV for a while, it's good to just remind myself of like what it was to be an artist. I'm not saying you can't be an artist in TV, but you're much more like the cog in the wheel, and I was like, every time I made a short film or made even a fashion film, it was like I was using the more artistic side of my brain, which I think also in documentary, because the edit is really, where it's created.
You're shaping everything.
And it's like 3 times as long as a feature edit. And, you go back and shoot stuff or whatever. So it's just a different visual artistic way of doing something.
That's so beautifully put. Well, Gracie, I've been looking forward to this for so long. I'm going to send you out in the store, come back, scurry around, go to the director's section at the back. We've got a big book that lists everything. Come back and we'll talk about some of your favourite movies.
Okay, cool.
New release.
Welcome back from your traversing around the store.
I know, it was amazing. I kind of, went around, looked at some old things.
We lost you for hours.
Went straight to the world cinema, straight to A to Z. Like, I know my sections.
You did. You went through alphabetically. You went reverse order. You did everything. But, hours later, you have returned to the desk.
I have.
Well, first thing, I've got a new release film that you directed yourself. And I wanted to kick our conversation off there. You've got a beautiful new documentary that you just won the Actor Award for Best Documentary Film for Revealed OTTO by OTTO.
Documentary.
Do you call it Revealed OTTO by OTTO or just
I think
OTTO
this
by
is
OTTO?
part of like
It's a
the
stand.
stand thing,
A stand umbrella.
which is fine. But then
I'll just call it OTTO by OTTO.
Yeah,
Take
OTTO
it
by
again.
OTTO. It was going to be called Otto on Otto, and then like I don't know, people thought it was like some gay thing with Miranda and I. And anyway, so I was just like, okay, we'll just change it. Like, I think on Twitter, a few people wrote some things, and I was like, Otto on Otto, yeah, it might not fold.
Well, OTTO by
And
OTTO.
everyone like
a
Otto
much
X
more-
Otto, but it was a bit like Gen Z,
Oh, I reckon it could go under all these titles then.
Yeah,
We'll
I kind
put
of wanted a title that was like the Imagine a blah, 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 life of Barry Otto, like something that had like 12 words in it.
Yeah.
But we just never could.
You got to keep
figure
paring
out.
it down,
Yeah.
paring it down. Well, we can always do, when you do a sequel one day,
Yeah.
you can do many, many different titles for it.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really, really beautiful documentary. And I really like that in our pre-chat we were talking about with a documentary, it's almost just you go.
Yeah.
And for a film like this that's so personal, so autobiographical about you and your family and in particular your father, where does a starting point feel like you? Like, where does this film begin? Its genesis point?
I guess this film began when I'd made The Last Impresario, and that was such a, like, you know, triumph that I'd spent 3 years just running around the world making this film and had come out and had done well. And, you know, you just kind of go, oh, fuck, finally someone's going to give me a job. And then that doesn't happen. And then you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just go and I went through a lot of subjects, like I had an idea of doing one on Warren Beatty, like Brittany Murphy. Like I kind of went through, and at the time I was living with Nick Broomfield, who's a big English documentary filmmaker. And once we weren't together anymore, whatever, I worked on Whitney Houston on his documentary with him. And he just said one day, I went to London to meet a guy who actually died a week after. And I'm glad it didn't, his name was Sir David Tang. I'm glad it kind of never happened, but I went to meet him like on his deathbed. And then, anyway, so that doco didn't happen. And I was just around London and, you know, Nick was just like, why do you idolize all these old men when you've got this amazing man in front of you who's way cooler than all these, you know, guys you think are great? And at the time I was just so kind of like down and living in LA and not knowing what to do next and just trying to generate my own work. And I just thought, you know, well, I guess if I could tell the story like of, you know, a man doing a one-man show, like how do we bring this present-day narrative into it? Because Dad's so captivating on camera. Like I would test all my documentary cameras out before I'd go overseas to shoot Michael White. And I remember Michael White, because he had emphysema and he had like 7 strokes, he wasn't very engaging on camera. And that's why that film was told from 65 other people's point of view. And after doing that Under the Volcano, I was like, I just want to do something where it's kind of like not doing talking heads. It's kind of him. And then obviously, you know, started filming it, and that was kind of, you know, took him back up to Brisbane. We were going to put this show on. It was all kind of great, and everyone's like, what's the third act? And we were like, oh, you know, like it will come. And then and then it became a quite personal film and not something that I really ever wanted to make or would ever have thought about making. And really it was like my amazing editor and my producers who kind of, you know, because I was so busy working as well. And like Karen, I mean, she sat there for months by herself in the edit. Like she deserves all the credit she gets for this documentary, and went through Dad's 12-hour interviews and all this stuff that mentally I couldn't do. I was very busy working, but it was also like, you know, I was seeing my therapist at the time. It was kind of like, I was living it. So it was a thing when I'm like, oh, like, this is not fun for me to like go back in, you know, I'm someone who doesn't like to ever express my feelings, you know, and I remember they all got me together one night on a Zoom and said, you've got to take ownership of this. You have to do the voiceover. And I was like, well, send me, all right, let's work out the questions and I'll just answer them. And I sat there with the 50 questions and thought, I'm just going to do it tonight before I'm back on set. And I got to the first question and I was like, I can't even talk because I was so, you know, emotional about it.
Grappling with existentialism straight away.
So it was kind of, you know, it's just something like I say, it's kind of like a more creative outlet of therapy of what I was going through. And I think, you know, as creatives, you can do lots of different films and TV or whatever, but that was just something that I kind of feel like now, you know, that it's done and it kind of finished at the right time of where Dad's at in his life at the moment. And, you know, in that lucky way to just capture these memories, you know, for whoever in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful personal work. Like for me personally, it resonates because I've gone through some not dissimilar stuff with my parents as well. And I can't even really imagine like being in those moments and having like a camera with me filming them. Was it able to kind of give you a bit more of like a necessary distance to those, or like an intellectual distance or something?
I mean, Dad knows when the camera's on him. Like, he's always been quite aware of it. It was interesting because, like, I am the cinematographer in the documentary, which I'm quite embarrassed about because I wouldn't say I'm a cinematographer at all. But I did shoot. I mean, I had other people come and help and do things, but it was interesting because I had a different access point when it was me and him. He has a different playful relationship with me, whether it's, you know, and a lot of the greatest stuff I shot was on the iPhone.
Yeah.
So again, like I was saying to like, you know, young filmmakers, it's like, if you have access to the thing, it doesn't really matter, you know, if you're not the greatest cinematographer or whatever, it's like, they always say, and Nicky Broomfield told me once, they always say in documentary, the dad only confesses he killed his kid once. So like, you can't miss it, you know, so you just got to kind of, you know. But yeah, it was...
To me, I love that approach as well because it gives a documentary like actual, like a physical texture as well, where you have different mediums of film, you know, whether it be really kind of hasty iPhone documentary digital footage and then maybe a nicer camera footage. I think it gives it like an immediacy to its texture.
Yeah. And it was also nice to go through, one of the, you know, greatest things was going through all the archive and all the family videos. And I started filming stuff from when I was like 15. I mean, like crazy, like we'd go on a school trip to New Caledonia and stay with some weird ass dude for a host family. And I was like, doing little exposés and, you know, so finding all that stuff, or like I went to Greece to play soccer and I played for like futsal Australian team, and it's like, you know, there's just an interview with me and some guys like, I'll take you on my boat in this like seedy leather jacket, and I'm just there and I'm just like, how am I still alive? Or like my first trips to Paris with my girlfriend. So it was like finding all that archive, as well as, you know, going back on my birthdays, and, you know, Mum, they always filmed, you know, your first birthday, second birthday, third birthday. And that was fun because like even like Hannah Chapman is in all the videos, and like we did Heartbreak High together.
Yeah.
And so like we used to hang out as babies, and she came, you know, and she's just in the background when someone's like, Hannah, get down from there. Just like this naughty child. So it was nice. It was kind of like, I guess you do that when people die. You go through and like reassess your life and stuff, and just kind of go, oh, wow, like I'm 37 now. I was always the 20-year-old. Where did those years go? Like, I feel like we were robbed of a few years in COVID. Like, I'm 37, but I feel like 33, 34 mentally.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm in
But
my
I'm also
late
like
20s
65
now. That's
mentally.
it. I'm counting as 8.
Yeah.
We're all... See, that's it. COVID screwed everyone. I'm lying
Yeah.
about my age. I got no idea where I am.
Yeah.
But can I ask you as well with your dad? Because it must have been like, you know, at that point in life where it's like the thinking about everything and going back and looking at everything. Can you... Like, what was the process like for him making this film?
I guess the process for him was that Dad, I think, you know, he was in a severe depression at the time. And, you know, it's like so hard being an actor, and that's what a lot of the documentary's about.
Yeah.
And he would always do anything for me. So I think that's the point. The problem with the film is that, like, it gets to a point where it's like he's going to just continue going when he can't physically or mentally do it, because he doesn't want to let me down, and I don't want to let him down. So I'm just going to keep filming. And it was like, how do we, you know, pull the cord on this? But, you know, I think for us it was like probably a really special time of us, you know. I mean, we were always like besties, like, you know, Dad and I, like, you know, just hanging out with him was like so fun. And then I think, you know, as it went on, obviously, I mean, the last stuff I shot was probably the last scene of the film. And that was kind of when, you know, spoiler, but like he's not really knowing. He's trying. I went and picked him up. He had an air tag, and he would just kind of go out walking because he's never had a phone. So we had to track him when, you know, he first got the disease, because he would just walk, and I'd see him at Broadway.
Such a good idea to put an
He
air
was the
tag.
McDonald's chips, yeah. So I'd have like him on the air tag, and Mum and I would be like, "Oh my God, he escaped," and he was out, you know. And I remember one day I had to like go and like pick him up, but he didn't really know me, you know. So I just felt like a kind of like picking up a child from a school or something. I was like, "Hello, come in, you know, I've got some water," or whatever. And I kind of went home with him, and he just was like, who is everyone? Like, what's going on? You know, and then I was like, okay. Because I remember after COVID, the first time going to get a coffee with him, and he said to the woman, you know, I've just got to introduce you to my lovely sister. And I was like, what, who, where? And I was like, wait, me? No, what? And that's like, you know, the first time that happened. So, I mean, when all that started happening with him, that was, you know, that was the end into the filming. So, you know, that was the other thing, was like, let's stop now, because it's not going to be something he can, you know, say that he wants to do anymore. And also it's like, it's not nice to see what's happened now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's nice seeing the end of the film, because even though you go, oh, he's like, it's so sad, I just go, oh my God, I would love to go back to 2022 when we shot that last footage to, you know, now he's quite non-verbal and barely walks, and, you know, it just goes downhill. They just kind of take everything away from you.
And it's tough. I think the way I always think about it with like parents is like even if it's a small issue or a small thing, it always feels like mythological or existential at every point. So I think that your film is like such a good testament to that feeling, and like especially to be able to capture these moments like in time. I think it's a beautiful, like I really, really love this film.
Oh,
really, really resonated with me. And I think just the way that you speak about that relationship as being like neither of you wanted to let each other down, I think it translates so beautifully. And to me, that's what I loved about the film.
Yeah.
Is like that relationship is so clear, and, you know, almost everyone on planet Earth can relate to that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, yes, it's done now, and yeah, so it's hard to now find another new subject, but that's what I'm working on at the moment, is trying to work out what I want to do next.
Explore that.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, it's like a 5-year, you know, kind of journey. You got to be really into it.
Exactly. You know, and it's like, you know, for something like this, we've shared so much of your personal life. I can imagine you're like, okay, what do I do next?
I know. I have a very private life.
You can't just make a sequel to something like that.
Yeah.
Well, shall we get into your weekly choices? Some of your other favorite movies.
Weekly.
Where should we begin? You've got the works of two great auteurs here.
Yes. So I don't have the DVD though.
Would you like to start with Mr. David Lynch?
Let's start with Mr. David Lynch.
Let's start with David Lynch, with one of, like, I would say the cornerstones of American surrealism, the absolutely perfect in the way that the way it delves into the subconscious, MULHOLLAND DRIVE from David Lynch.
Cult.
When did this actually? Usually we begin talking about like a synopsis for this film.
Yeah.
I would like you to try and sum up.
Oh, my synopsis. I'm so bad at those in the screening applications.
How would you summarize
guess,
Mulholland Drive?
I don't know. The thing for me with Mulholland Drive is like I was trying to write a script years ago in LA called Blonde versus Brunette. That obviously I'm sure a lot of people write things that they go, it's very similar to Lynch. But it was a kind of about this sliding doors of like an actress who makes it versus the one who doesn't. I used to always drive around LA and look at the time it was Dumb and Dumber was out and there was a pigeon on a billboard that had been like cut out. And I was like, someone had to have a meeting about that. Like I was like, I will never be as famous as that pigeon. And, every 6 weeks, all the billboards go down and it's like the new person's up and like that whole Marilyn Monroe, like Hollywood pay you 50 cents. And so I think, for me, there was like this world in LA that was like me and everyone having this great time, blah, blah, blah. And then there was this like dark undertone world that I always loved as well. I lived up on Woodrow Wilson Drive, which is on the corner of Mulholland Drive. And then I actually, because I just rewatched Mulholland Drive, I used to live at 1234 Havenhurst Drive, which is such a good address in West Hollywood. And she goes at the start, she goes to 1468 Havenhurst Drive. And I was like, oh my God, like had I known that, I would have just walked around. I'm sure it wasn't the same location, but like just that it was in the address.
Yeah.
But for me, I discovered David Lynch, I think it was like even after I first lived in LA, I went down to see Dad in a play and I went to the video store because I was like, okay, I'm just going to rent a few films. And I just watched it and was like, oh my God, like I'm obsessed. Synopsis would be, I guess, like a dream, full stop.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
Perfectly put.
It's as smart as I can. I mean, it's just so you can intellectualize it and analyze it and go down so many layers. And then you can also just go with it in a way, like when I watched it the other day, like you do in a dream. Like I had a dream the other night when it was like a Bambi animal, but like on his ass, he had like evil eyeballs and it just turned around its ass and looked at me and I go
you've got generative AI in your dreams.
I don't know what that means. It was like a deer. I don't like deers, especially deers that have eyeballs on their assholes and they're looking at me like, what does that mean? So I think for me, like, it's got this amazing dream element to it. I think it's got something that obviously a lot of I'm sure actors and whatever resonate with that thing where it can be that sliding doors moment of someone going one way, someone's got just as much talent and they don't. And, you have the same, sometimes you can all have the same opportunities or whatever, or you just take you'll take a different pathway down life and you kind of go, when was that crossroads where you went that way and I went that way kind of thing. So I think for me, it's just, it's always been a favourite film. And then the other day I was like, why? And then I think when he died, I was lucky enough to meet him maybe 3 times. And one of my really good friends, Patrice, has this amazing gallery in Paris. And they did my first it's Picasso's old, like, lithograph print pressing place. And it's like this really historical place. It's quite, like, not secret, but it's like, and Patrice is like this incredible guy who used to always he actually did my first poster for Last Impresario. This amazing artist, Jean Albalera, did the poster for Last Impresario and they printed it. And so I went there once and Lynch was just there painting. And I was like, oh, my posters are there. And he's like, I'm mining them for you. And I was like, ugh. And I have a letter from him when I just remember asking him for a cigarette because I was like, what do you ask him for? And he wrote me a letter saying, Dear Gracie, I don't smoke anymore. Just ironic. It's bad for you or something. Love, David. And I just said to Mum the other day, I said, find it. We must frame it. Because it's just like, frame it. I just collect lots of little trinkets from men I've met over the years. And anyway, but I bought my first artwork, which is, I went in there one day and it was his, and it's signed by him. And it's the only artwork I own. Wow. And I used to go back for years because it was only 1,500 euros. It was like, but I had no money and I'd go over every few years and put another 300 euros down, 200 euros here and there, and finally bought it back.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, Mulholland Drive, I don't know, the music for me is just, Angelo Badalamenti is like, I mean, I'm very obsessed with composers, and for me, everything comes from music and repetition of music. I love the same theme coming over and over. I love the same song playing over and over. And I don't know, I also like that his relationship, with his editor and producer, like Mary Sweeney, and how, I mean, she said in interviews that sometimes she doesn't even ask him what it's about. They just go with the feeling of it. And I think, when he died, it's just like he has there were so many people on my Instagram, like everyone was, you just forget that there was these artists. Like, I think now we're living in this, like, show after show after movie after movie after movie. And he just kind of, like, he made furniture. Like, I'm obsessed with Googling and wanting to, like, buy one of his side tables. And he did his art. And he really was the kind of true genius of an artist who had his own voice and his own kind of style and what he wanted to do. He did hits, he did things that weren't hits, and yeah, and so when someone like that leaves the planet, you just go, wow, they were so inspiring.
And I think what he does so well is, and what he does uniquely well, is he has like, it's almost as if he has access to the subconscious and in somewhat a collective subconscious in a very direct way that he is uniquely able to translate to film in a really powerful way. And I think that's what makes people resonate so much. And I think when it's like, you think about his surrealism, it's not like Terry Gilliam's surrealism where it's like, oh, he's created all these fantastical things. Like, no, it's like this uncanny surrealism. And the best way I've ever been able to describe the feeling of his surrealism, it's as if he goes to a real location, like maybe someone's real house, and he goes in and takes all the furniture out, comes in, puts the exact same kind of furniture in that's a little bit off, repaints the walls the exact same color, and everything's just a little bit off. And it gives you this uneasy, dreamlike feeling. We go, oh, something's amiss here. But it makes you kind of think about like why that is.
Yeah.
I don't know,
and I think there's a lot of people in life who don't, like I'm someone who dreams. Like I have fucked up dreams. Like hectic
you got
dreams.
Bambi with eyeballs.
Yeah, I know, that was weird because I don't really have, like, there's probably once every year or two I actually have a nightmare that like, and I wake up and I'll be walking around the apartment for like 15 minutes and saying to myself, you're not in it. But I know because I can very much, I can be in a dream and go, oh, kind of need to pee. Get up and pee and go, let's go back in because I'm having a really good dream right now. But those ones I kind of
get back up.
Yeah, I can go back into it and re-enter. So I've always been obsessed with that kind of. I mean, I know he does the transcendental meditation and but tapping into the and I think with the next movie I'm going to talk to as well. That's like why it taps into like. There's a great line that when I was about dreams catching and stuff and like it's like manifestation. Like which outstanding to LA because I'm not into fucking smoothies and manifestation, but I can manifest shit and it happens and I'm like, did I manifest that or and I've always been obsessed like with. Not chance encounters, but like the bird effect. The bird flies around, like causation and effect, and that kind of thing in life as well. Like I am waiting for the day when you just say like cut, and then everyone and I have been in the Truman Show because weird shit happens to me all the time. Where I like look around and go, they're going to tell me soon, right? Like, and I am in some weird video game. If I think about someone, they call me.
That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
I've been hired to keep you in the simulation.
Yeah.
We will not break the simulation at all. I think the other thing that when I revisited Mulholland Drive recently was I've watched it a lot of times in my life, like because it's always been this film that goes that there's something to unlock there.
Yeah.
I always feel like there's something more to unlock.
The little
with
blue
it.
box.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like but all the clues are there. And I think for this time it was the most visceral experience that I had with it where I started watching and go like, oh my God, have I been wrong? Is this like nothing to me? Like, is this just like this, like pointless surrealism, pointless dreaminess? No. And then there's this moment where you go through this transition from dream into reality. And it's like not subtle. It's like you're looking at a pillow and stuff like that.
And then she just walks out the door. I mean, also, I don't even remember that, like, it always been my favorite film. I didn't remember that the brunette character was in it from the beginning with her so much. I always thought she came in a lot later. So, yeah, I feel like that was, I don't know, but it was interesting because I watched Lost Highway straight after because I was always like, Lost Highway is my favourite. And I think, as a Lynchian fan, you have to, like, if I was going to say to people out there, like, you start with Blue Velvet. Like, start with the most linear one before you start going to the fucked up narratives. But
and
Lost
then put
Highway,
in like Elephant Man as a treat. Put in Straight Story as a little treat every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, even it was a film that his daughter did as well. It was like not Julianne, what's her name? Anyway, something Lynch. She's made some really interesting films as well. But yeah, I don't know. Lost Highway it didn't hit as hard after he died as Mulholland Drive did. And I think after now being like in the industry, having come back from LA, not really missing LA after 4 years. Yeah, and just thinking about my time there at the time and the dark side of it as well. Yeah. I had one of my best friends who passed away. Unfortunately, took her life. And it was that kind of, it always, we were both obsessed. And actually, we both got to meet David Lynch together, which was, her name's Samantha Reblain. She's an amazing filmmaker. But it was that thing where she kind of went to LA at, I guess, like 40 to do directing. And, it was the dream. And it was this kind of like idealization of the dream. And the reality of that was not, and it's kind of like, and the psyche and the underworld,
It's there.
Yeah, so it was just,
I guess with that film, like when I felt like I unlocked it, go like, oh no, this is a story about this kind of like dorky character, Naomi Watts, who
Yeah.
just has to psychologically deal with the guilt around the biggest fuck up mistake that she's ever made. And it's just like this emotional psychosis dream that you're kind of in. I go, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah.
And I go, this is one of the great, like, I've always loved this film, but getting to that point, I go, this is
No, when I watched it the
truly
other day, I was like,
uniquely
this is
great.
one of the greatest films of all time in my. You know.
I think great use of the medium of film to even go one step
Yeah.
further. It's like, no, this is translating something. This is translating a feeling, not even emotion, like a feeling or or something even so, like unexcusable to become a film. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the woman singing opera at the end, and then like like so lip sunk so well, and then the radio goes away, and it's like this is all like, it's just amazing.
Absolutely. You can't put it any other way.
Yeah.
But it will, I think it will be a film that people will be, like, it'll be a gateway to so much more deep stuff for so many people for the rest of time.
Yeah.
But that is Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, one of the greatest films.
I know. I feel like everyone would pick that film, but I was just like, I really want to talk about it because I just
Yeah.
love it so much.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you picked it up. And you picked up another one of the greats, one of my favorite films, and one of my video store classics. Like, getting into the films of Wong Kar-wai was a big part of working in a video store for me as a teenager.
Oh, where did you work?
I worked at Mondo Movies in Annandale.
Mondo Movies.
Yes, a
Ah,
lovely
okay.
little art house video store.
Yeah, I think I've probably been there.
You probably would've.
Because when I couldn't find something, it would be,
We probably spoke on the phone as you're trying to
Yeah,
track a
yeah.
film down. But you've got from 1994, Chungking Express.
Cult.
Yeah, and I bought my own copy in. So
This is the iconic Quentin
I know.
Tarantino Rolling
and
Thunder
like
presents.
the other night I thought I had an Xbox and I thought it would play in that and it didn't. And then so I had to get out the old connector thing and so I had to watch it on my computer. And I was just like, for me, like, I guess, am I a romantic? Sometimes, when I'm not just focused on work. It's like the ultimate romance film for me in a way. Like, I think, actually it's in, so those who haven't seen it, Tarantino did a little intro, which is quite hilarious. It's like two stories. It's essentially like two short films.
Two short films.
That actually Faye Wong does walk in and buy a teddy bear, I noticed. So they link up, in a way, but really it's the second part of the film. Tony Leung, besides the fact I've always just thought he was so hot.
Yeah.
And Faye Wong is like this amazing like pop star, but she's this like tomboy, just wears a t-shirt and works in like the chicken shop. And I just love how, they meet. He's obsessed with this air hostess or whatever. And she just like, she never even makes eye contact with him. Like, I feel like when I am into someone, I'm so bad at just like talking about things that you just go, why would you say that to that guy? Or whatever. Like, I just feel like she is. And when somebody actually finally kind of goes, Gracie, or whatever, like, listen to me or whatever. And she just spends the whole time just like listening to, and I also love repetition of music and California Dreaming, like just playing over and over and over again.
This is the greatest example of repetitive music, where it's this one song, California Dreaming, throughout the entire film.
Yeah. And like that's why I was going to originally talk about Anatomy of a Fall, because I had that pimp steel band music on my playlist like 8 years ago, and I was like, I wish I'd used that in a movie. But I just loved that film just because of the fact that the song, like I think my neighbours at the moment, because I haven't been home for 5 years, are just like, she literally plays the same song. I'm obsessed with this like Jamaican song at the moment.
Steel drum.
And I might play it like
50 Cent cover.
Yeah, and I might play the same song 45 times a day.
I think I'm the same as you, because I'm like, if I really like a song, I go obsessive about it. And to a point where I go, God, I love listening to this song. While I'm listening to it, start it again so I can start listening to it again.
Yeah, that's why I drove here, just to listen to this Jamaican song by this guy called Winston McAnuff. And it's like not a steel orchestra, but it's like some... And I found it, and like I don't love any of his other songs, and I've watched it live on YouTube, and I've played it. I think it's been my top Spotify for the past 3 years, and I just play it over and over and over again. And halfway down with the traffic lights, I'll just start it again and do like pump it into the driveway. So anyway, I'm obsessed with that kind of. I guess I get hyper focused.
Yeah, I don't know if
we're
we're both normal or we're both weird. If we both do that, I'm starting to think it's weird.
I don't know. I just don't get when people... But I go through phases of music. Like, I was going through a very big kind of, like, 60s Japanese pop last year. And I will listen to that when I was on a show called Good Cop, Bad Cop, which is an American comedy. Nothing to do with Japanese pop music, but I always have to listen to something completely different to...
Juxtaposition.
...the world I'm in. And then I was going through, like, a French-Algerian rap phase pretty hard. So at the moment, I've gone back to kind of a dub Jamaican... very loud in my apartment building. Sorry, neighbours. Yeah.
This is weird. I think you and I have actually similar taste in music.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, oh, I don't know. I
See,
don't
maybe
know
we
new
are
music.
living
I
in the
listen to
game
new
and I've
stuff.
met my, you
Yeah.
know, like the whatever the other character is.
That's you go, oh, wow, this was the other character you could have selected at the start of the game.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we've still got the DVD and the Xbox for
Yeah.
this one. But Chunking Express, I think almost every time I watch it, I flip between which story
Yeah.
I'm more interested in. Like sometimes it's the first story, which is another love story of a cop falling in love with, I guess, almost someone that he's chasing after.
Yeah, and she's like the kind of, I mean, Tarantino was talking about his little intro, but she's like the Jenna Rollins of like Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah.
Lynn, I think her name is. Anyway, and she wears the wig, and I just loved actually because there's that couple that are like fucking, and then you're like, why do they keep coming up? And then
Yeah.
she shoots him, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like so. There's something about this, like having almost two really different genres. Like the first one's a crime thriller,
Yeah.
almost gangster film genre. The second one is much more straight up, like romantic comedy, chance encounter meeting.
But I think because of the expiry date on things, like that plays the part in the first one. And then I think for me, what resonates the most is like, can dreams catch? You know, can you have a dream about someone? Can you like manifest into something? And can it catch on in a subconscious way?
Yeah.
Which kind of, for me, you know, actually even in the music when it started the other night on Chunkin Express, had this like Lynchian synth to it that, and I was like, it was like, like, you know, and I was like, like I remembered the movie straight away just from the song. And I was like,
Yeah.
this music is going to like, you know, come back again. But the real hero in this whole thing that I feel like, not that he never gets talked about, I don't know, because I don't read heaps of interviews with Wong Kar-wai, but there's this guy I've been obsessed with for years. Like, I remember on my birthday when I was in Cannes, I had the Babel composer I ended up having dinner with, and I was like, this is the best birthday ever. Like, I've always been obsessed with composers. But there's this guy, I think it's William Chang. I hope it is. I think that's his name. And he is, I don't know if you know this, but he is the production designer, costume designer, and editor of all of Wong Kar-wai's amazing films.
Whoa.
I know, right? Like,
That's like key collaborator.
Yeah.
Because
Type in-
everyone talks about, you know,
I wrote it down on my
Christopher Doyle.
phone.
Let me.
No, I know Christopher Doyle, William Chang. Yeah. So and actually I checked on Chungking Express the other night because I was like, he was also the production designer, because usually he's the costume designer and the editor. So when you think about 2046 and in the Mood for Love, and I think about the costumes and how like the outfits, like how they move in the space, but also how it's pieced together and how it's edited. Where is William Chang?
Yeah.
Like we talk about Tony Leung and Wong Kar-wai, but William Chang, oh my God. You're my celebrity crush, you know? That's what I want to meet. Like, you
Yeah.
know, so I've just been on this like little wormhole of William Chang at the moment. I went on like a little wormhole a few years ago about him because I was just like, if I ever got a film up, like I would just go to William Chang and go, please. But I thought it was interesting that he did the production design. I mean, Chungking Express was made at a time when Wong Kar-wai was doing a big epic and wanted to just kind of like couldn't finish his film. So he went and made this very quickly or whatever. But
Ashes of Time, I think.
Ashes
it
of
was.
Time, yeah. But do you think about the production design, the editing on that, and the costumes?
Yeah.
Anyway, I did meet Wong Kar-wai once, and he had like, these were my Wong Kar-wai shades. And I was at Cannes Film Festival, and I was like an actress, and I was 20, and I said these like Dracula teeth, and he came up to me at a party, and I went to order a drink, and it was on this beach, and I was just so excited, and then he just turned around, and he was like, oh, Dracula teeth. And it was like the worst,
Wow.
you know, it was like, don't meet your heroes. And then, so only work I've ever have done is that like, when I was going to be an actor, I did have like really pointy Dracula teeth, but apparently it's a really lucky thing. Like I'm Otto, which is number 8 in Chinese. So it's like Dracula teeth is a good thing. I've looked up, but I just remember being just like,
Brutal.
man, like I love you. You're fucking talking about my
He
teeth.
costume designed you.
Yeah.
Right in front of you.
I know. Anyway, so I would like to meet William Chang and just, I mean, yeah, Christopher Doyle.
Yeah. It's
What
like,
a mad genius as well.
Absolutely. And I think when you see this film in particular, like I can say about any of their collaborations together, with Chungking Express, like you said, Tony Leung, Fei Wong, when you're watching them in this film, you're convinced that no one has ever been more beautiful than either of those two people on planet Earth in the history of mankind. And just, I think there's something about the way that not just the camera captures them, but the way that the film presents them. And, you know, you look at any of his films, like 2046 as well, is another one that I know you love.
Yeah.
Like, there's a way that between those two, and maybe those three, if we count William as well, the way that they're able to construct these films together, they feel like the way that memories of love feel like. So sometimes they feel beautiful, sometimes they feel painful, but they always feel like love. And I think this is such a great example of that.
I think I've come out of this thinking that I'm very into memories and dreams. But also, I think what's interesting about David Lynch and Wong Kar-wai is that, I mean, even Tarantino to some degree is of these long-lasting existing collaborations. Like, obviously, they're known as, like, the kind of, like, David Lynch or whatever. But, like, Mary Sweeney, like, in my opinion, who was, I think, in a relationship with him sometime, but his producer and editor, like, she did Mulholland Drive, lost all his my favourite works were edited by her. And then there was Sally, can't remember her last name, and she edited all Tarantino's films, and then she died, like, in Runyon Canyon one day.
Sally
like
Minky.
Sally Minky. And when you look at, like, I go, what are his top 5? I go, Sally Minky, you know.
Yeah.
William Chang. So the fact that William Chang, CHUNGKING EXPRESS, if you're out there, William, I'm going to find you.
Wow.
Staff pick.
Well, Gracie, we're at the part of the show where we have talked about some of your favorite movies.
I want homework.
I'm going to try and give you a recommendation of something you might not have seen before. Okay. And I really was like latching onto like your choice of like really distinct voices. And I guess as well, memory and dream kind of really were things that kind of resonated with this as well. And you're a big cinephile, so I'm like, fuck, where do I start?
No, it'd probably be something I haven't seen. Like, I've seen a lot of films, and then there's like a whole genre of like horror films that I've never seen.
I imagine I just go, well, what about The Monkey? It's out in cinemas now. You might not have seen that yet. But there's a film that that I got stuck on a few years ago. I saw it at the Sydney Underground Film Festival.
Okay.
Which is a festival I really love because I think it captures the sense of discovery so well.
My film school teacher was running that festival. We used to do experimental film together in film school.
Stefan?
Stefan.
He's still there?
And I used to just draw like with like blue crayons on like stuff and like put it through and be like, you know. Anyway, I loved Sydney Film School.
Yeah.
Shout out.
This is a film that I really love. It's a directorial debut by a filmmaker called Mark H. Rappaport. Okay. And it's called HIPPO. Have you heard of HIPPO?
No.
Cult.
This is a really like I don't even know how to describe it because it's quite singular, and I don't want to give away too much for you to not discover, but it is Hippo is a peculiar adolescent, and his Hungarian stepsister Buttercup struggle to come of age in the late 90s in America under the roof of a mother who has been institutionalized at least once. Within moments, like the same kind of way you talk about Chungking and Mulholland Drive, for this film, like within moments, I'm like, oh, I'm on board. This film can do anything for me, and I'm in. It's got this really stark, striking black and white photography that is not like that silvery digital look. It's like it is very, very, very strong black and white, probably like Eraserhead, I would describe it as. And it has this really storybook ribald narration by Eric Roberts, like the great kind of sleazy, the guy who captures sleaze in a character actor form in such a great way that kind of has this essence of world building, but then throughout that, it uses it to create this really compelling comedic juxtaposition as well. Like just works so beautifully.
I love this recommendation.
I think you'll really love this movie. Like really 3 great performances. Like it's mainly just 3 characters of 2 step siblings and their mother, and then Eric Roberts is like this unseen narrator, and I think it's maybe the best performance of his career of like great performances. Just his voice only.
Wow. Okay.
Amazing. And the I don't usually like spelling out like the kind of it's this mix of recipes of these things. Yeah. But these are the notes that I wrote down for this one. It's like to kind of entice people to watch this. It's a little bit Tim Burton with a little bit of Jarmusch, a touch of Lanthimos in that kind of weird wave vibe, but then this kind of delightful sense of transgression, the way that Todd Solondz would have in his films. Yeah. So I don't like to do that too much because I think this is a really unique film. But if any of those people, if you vibe with those things, I think that this film could be.
And where am I going to see it? I go on my Just Watch.
Maybe hit up Stefan, I guess. You might be able to find it. But it's been hard to find. Okay, but it's just a film I saw at a film festival. I go, God, I love that. I've never seen it again. I've always wanted to. Yeah. But I felt like seeing your choices through this conversation, I go, I think this is a little discovery for you to find and something new. It's a new
I love movies. I was thinking like the other day, and I've been going to see all the films that are coming out at the moment and stuff. And for me, it's like The movies I love are the movies that, like, sometimes you watch a movie and it's really hard to watch, or it's like it affects you in some way, but then in 10 years' time, you don't go, oh, let's go sit down and watch that again.
Yeah.
You know, but I love the movies like these ones where you can go back and see it at a different, you know, how this affected me when I was 25 and found it to, you know, how I think about stuff now. It's like, yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's the unique pleasures of rewatching something. It's like discovering something, but also unlocking some of the same experiences you've had before. There's something about that at this point in my life, I'm really enjoying rewatching things that I've already loved.
Yeah.
But there's still a sense of discovery in doing that.
Yeah. Well, good.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. That was fun.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me, Gracie. Enjoy your films. You picked up Otto by Otto, your beautiful documentary, MULHOLLAND DRIVE by David Lynch, Wong Kar-wai's Chungking Express, and now...
And in this book, it's got his, like... It's got his, like, favourite playlist as well, so I've been just Shazamming
What's the playlist? That's what... Can we leave that for our listeners to as their little treat at the end of this podcast? And I'll just pop in... What was the last thing I said? And HIPPO by Mark H. Rappaport. Okay, so we found... Wong Kar-wai's playlist, his jukebox playlist.
It's like his jukebox, which is, I mean, obviously you can just Shazam from the movies, but I'll say that, like, Take My Breath Away is the Sandy Lamb canto pop version. The song meshes perfectly with Wong's unabashed willingness to appropriate music video aesthetics in Tears Go By. It's kind of catchy. But, like, Forget Him by Shirley Kwan, one of the most famous Cantonese pop stars. It's got... I mean, the 2046 theme song, I mean, that's actually that's listing the composer, who's just a genius.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of just got like some of his songs in it. I mean, I never actually liked My Blueberry Nights, and I think
we got a copy of Blueberry Nights here on the counter somewhere.
Yeah. What did you put up here? Anyway, so that was that was why I bought the book. I should read, but I don't. So just keep it as My Blueberry Nights. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
Not my favorite, but it was the only one I had.
Bet William Chang wasn't on it.
Yeah, I don't think so. See, are the English language ones still? Probably.
I think so.
Yeah. I haven't seen it for like 25 years.
Yeah.
Since it came out. My old DVD copy from the video store. Well, Gracie, thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Thanks, yeah.
What a pleasure.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Now we go on our adventures together.
I know. I've got to find that film to watch tonight.
Oh, we'll find it for you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The last video store.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Gracie Otto. And you, dear listener and viewer, if you want to keep up with us, follow us on Instagram at Last Video Store Batuta and Last Video Store Batuta on TikTok as well. We're putting up some clips of the podcast. Also, we're on YouTube if you're listening to this. And if you're watching this, we're on podcast. So explore the podcast in multiple ways. I would also give a shout out to all the wonderful people that have been leaving us great reviews on whatever podcast choice it is. 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts really helps us. Leaving comments on the YouTube page on the video really helps us as well. So please put in your picks because I'm doing all of them.
Yeah.
We'll get to all of them.
And tell a friend too.
Yeah,
Please
tell some friends.
Another soldier of cinema.
Exactly. We've got to get the army strong. So tell your soldiers of cinema.
We're recruiting.
But it's been very nice. Making this podcast at the moment, I reckon I get more people coming up to me telling me how much they love it than anything else I've ever made. So share it out there. We're still new. We're only a 1-year-old baby right now.
I know. We kind of about to have 1 year anniversary, right?
I know. We're probably not with a special episode because I'm about to do a comedy festival tour, touring around the country with my show with Zachary Ruane called Refused Classification. We might be in Melbourne right now. We've got Sydney upcoming. We've got Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide. Would probably have just been done because I don't know when this is coming out.
Yeah.
But it's all out there. Check it out. We've got it in the show notes, so click through. Thanks. See ya.